Welcome to Transformation with Laota Rasul and Ahad Rasul. In this program, you will activate the changes that need to be made in your life through the processes of cleaning, clearing, and reconnection with your own divinity. It's time to begin the process to heal yourself. Now, here are your hosts, Laota and Ahad Rasul.
Good morning and welcome to Transformations with Laota Rasul. I'm Ahad Rasul, accompanied by the star of the show, Miss Laota Rasul. Good morning.
Greetings, everyone. Salutations in Lakesh. We're so happy to have you here with us on Voice America, and we are happy to be here ourselves.
Yes, ma'am, we are. All right, the topic of today's show is advanced soul clearings. Now, advanced soul clearings is one of the services in our quantum light clearing services. We also do property clearings and vehicle clearings as well. So advanced soul clearings is one of our most effective and most popular services that we offer. And we really are excited because we've had almost everybody who's worked with us has had a soul clearing before. And we'd like to actually hear from everyone today. So as the show goes on, feel free if you've had a soul clearing, if you've heard about it, if you have anything that you feel like will be a great experience to express from your soul clearings, to express to the rest of all the people listening, feel free to go ahead and call in. And even if you have any questions, feel free to call in and we'll take the calls as soon as we are able. Now, Ms. Laota, let's go ahead and just jump right into it.
Well, this topic is one dear to my heart and something that I have benefited from myself and have been now for many years working with others. The thing I think that's most important for everyone to understand is the whole process of what our soul transition through time and space is. And one of the biggest ideas that I think is important for everyone to know is that the idea that we have here of schools and high schools and grammar schools and universities is an idea that existed in the universe. And then, there's an adage that says, as above, so below. So that is actually the same idea. We are all moving through our educational process. We're moving through phases of elevation and learning. The difference is that at the point at which most of us who are incarnated in this time and space on Earth is that we're choosing what it is that we're studying, or what it is that our preferences are, what it is that are the themes of our lifetime. And this has everything to do with advanced soul clearing. So I wanted to speak about that a little bit so that we're all on the same page. And the idea is that from as we go through all the different lifetimes that we have, we accumulate a variety of experiences. And some of these experiences we complete and, so to say, move on to the next experience. And some of the experiences are leftover business or business that's not yet finished. And so when we're between lives, when we're in remembrance of what our main idea is, when we're able to have a more full understanding of what our greater life expansion is, we choose themes that we'll work on. And the themes, vary from health and fitness to career to money and income to life meaning, all kinds of themes, recreation, things that we may not have fully explored in previous lifetimes. So we all come in with themes that we have chosen ourselves to move further in, and our higher selves, or the greater aspect of us, helps us provide events and circumstances so that we can best elevate through those themes that we've chosen. So I think that's the basis for it.
And what you just said about where circumstances are brought about to cause us to see or have the opportunity to work on these certain things is actually something very interesting, because I know when we deal with a lot of our clients that come to us, they come normally from the base of some type of experience that they've had in their life that is very uncomfortable, that is perceived to be negative. And one big thing that we like to lay the foundation of when working with us is that all of these experiences, as uncomfortable as they may be, as negative as they may seem, is something that had to happen to cause you to see something or to find a direction or find or have a reason to make a shift or make a change or to learn this certain lesson. So think about it, at the end of this lifetime or this incarnation, whatever if those experiences that you had are going to be less dramatic when you've learned the lesson from it. And now you're no longer in their physical body anymore. So what's some ideas or something that we can kind of look at to not see our experiences in this lifetime as being a negative, however, being something that was necessary to grow from?
Well, it's very specific to exactly what we want to talk about. We have classes, let's say, where there's work that has to be accomplished. And we have the end goal is that we've set up this theme perhaps we've set up a theme that we want to work on forgiveness. So then in this class, we're given examples in our lifetime that are set up by our own higher intelligence to present us with opportunities to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. So we have this series of events that takes place one after another, possibly and very likely one more intense than the next, until it gets to an intensity where we are now pressed, so to say, to find a solution. And this is where the great learning takes place. And this is where the openings are. And this is where we can achieve balance and where we can achieve significant growth and elevation, because we have been, so to say, pressed by the ideas that we put in place ourselves to work on so that we could achieve greater expansion and greater elevation in the hierarchy of our own educational process, which we are guiding. And this is what is not well understood. So did I answer that?
Yeah, that's something I'm imagining how, let's say, forgiveness is the theme that someone decides that they're going to work on in their lifetime. I'm imagining how all these different life experiences that a person may have that causes them to either forgive and move on or hold on to it and be scorned, be bitter, and carry all the negative with them. It's like you said, it's, one thing might happen after the next. And then the person's conscious mind, we might perceive it as just being all these bad things, all these bad people coming into our lives, coming to, doing things, and not seeing it for what it really is this is an opportunity for me. This is an opportunity for me to work on myself. This is an opportunity for me to take advantage of an opportunity or a lesson that I came here to do. However, because it's not in our conscious mind, it'll be hard for us to do that. And this is where soul clearing comes into play a little bit about how we can get on the right track to start realizing that these experiences are benefits to us, even if they might have been a little uncomfortable.
Absolutely. We deliberately set up lives in which we must face and overcome whatever the issue is, whether it's forgiveness or hate or love, whatever it is, until we have learned enough about it to move beyond it. And so many of us have already experienced this in different times of our life. When you were a teenager, you may have experienced wanting to follow a crowd. And then eventually when you were in college or when you got married, realized that following the crowd was something that you have elevated beyond. So we all have had experiences in these classrooms that we have set up ourselves, and we all have already kind of know that, but often we're in forgetfulness in the heat of the exchange of, our relationships or our relationships with our children. We really, when people come to us, we're really looking at the underlying program that's playing out. We're looking to see, what is this? Is this an area where it looks like someone's doing something to you, so you have to be angry with them. So is this really an idea of you forgiving others? Or is this something where you feel so terrible about yourself that you can't forgive yourself for some action that you did out of innocence because you did what you needed to do at the time and what your understanding had? So this often is a circumstance where we're unable in the moment of our own experience to extract ourselves and see the larger idea that this universe is growing, that the sun is growing, that the earth is growing, and that we as individual souls on the earth, we are all growing and expanding. And for growth, it does require that we reach certain pitch or a certain place at which we can break through the level of intelligence we're operating at and move to the higher level of intelligence. And that's often very uncomfortable. However, the good news is that we deliberately set up these programs ourselves. And I think many of those who have had the experience of going through advanced soul clearings can attest to the ability to break through that kind of experience. It's almost like you break the glass ceiling and then all of a sudden you realize the ceiling was glass and you can see.
Wow. Why don't you share that story that you were sharing with me about your personal experience with a program that waited you for so long, and now we're on the other side of it?
Well, I had for most of my lifetime a program of abandonment that was running in my own experience. And it's so funny because when I eventually broke through it, it all seemed so obvious to me, which is always the case as we grow. We look back and it seems obvious, but I was running an abandonment program, and everything in my life was conspired to make the program reinforce itself. So I was born into a difficult marriage where people weren't really paying attention to me because they were busy paying attention to their difficulties with each other. And then there was a divorce, and so that was reinforcement for abandonment. And then my mother worked at night, so she wasn't at home during the day when I would come home from school, and she was sleeping because she worked at night. And then there was this idea of, as I went through my experiences and love affairs and different experiences, it seemed like everyone left. And so that reinforced even more. And then I was married, and then there was infidelity, and that reinforced it more. And then there was divorce. And then my ex-husband passed away, and that reinforced more abandonment. So I had all of these experiences of abandonment. And then as my children were growing up, they wanted to spend time away, and all of these things were things that made me clear. And I was so confirmed that it was obvious that I had been abandoned, and I felt so righteously indignant to have whatever feelings I was having concerning that, because all the evidence pointed to it. And after doing a great deal of work on this idea, I woke up one morning with the absolute clarity that, first of all, that when I came into this incarnation, I was not separated from God, and that love is never lost, and that if your parents love you, whether they're divorced or whether they're not, there's no, the fact that you agreed to come and have this experience is an act of great love. The fact that all of the other facts that seem so, clear to me, that justified all of my angst and bitterness concerning being abandoned, were really acts of everyone doing what they needed to do to fulfill their own themes. And that I saw this all through the colored glasses of feeling like I was so justified, and feeling that someone had not given me something or didn't want me to have something. And when I realized that, I was able to regain the love that my parents had had for me and for each other, because love is never lost. It still exists as the love in its infancy, when they fell in love with each other, when they were making love and made a baby, when they pursued all that was love. It still existed. It was still available. It could still be captured, and I could still experience it and magnify it and make it greater. And that which was less than that could be diminished or even go completely away. And the same thing happened when I thought about my marriage and all of the things in that marriage that I felt were abandonment. Really, the excitement when I recall and bring into my mind the beauty of the experience of being in love, I could recapture that because love is never lost. So, in my own experience of doing my own clearings on my own soul, this was a huge experience for me because this was one of my major themes in my life, was to get through this process, to learn and to understand about this issue, which was unfinished business. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow, that story I thought was very clear to show, and it's so real because it's coming from the one who's actually doing the work. It's so real to show the experience that where you start in the beginning of your life, and this program seems to show itself continuously through different areas of your life, and then you could reach a point where you almost like, all right, well, you almost start to accept it as just being who you are and what's reality for you. However, it's so beautiful that we have something that can help you shift that experience, shift the experience of thinking that something that's negative, so to say, seemingly negative, is something that has to be your reality. When you can take it in your own hands and look at it, change your perspective about it, and have a different experience completely.
It's even greater than that. Not only could I change my perspective, but I became greater as I recaptured all the love I thought had been lost. So it made me greater. It filled me up, and it made me overflow with love for others because I could see the pain and suffering others had gone through because I had put myself through it as they were putting themselves through it.
Wow. And that's wow. All right. Well, we have to get to the commercial now. So on the other side, we'll continue this conversation. And if, like I said before, if anybody has any questions, comments, experiences that they'd like to share, or if you just like to call in and say hi, feel free to go ahead and call in, and we'll take calls on the other side of the break. All right. We're back. Now, we'd like to speak for a moment on the full reach that soul clearings, all the things that soul clearings actually do, and all the things that can be affected and shifted by receiving a soul clearing. A lot of times when we do interact with clients for the first time, the thing that drove them to us are certain experiences that are seemingly negative that are going on in their lives right now. And whether it be a big outbreak between family where, things are just wrong, things just aren't happy and peaceful, so they need that to be shifted, or it's a big medical issue, or it's a big legal issue. They're normally things that are relevant to people in the life that they're living right now in the present day. And our soul clearings do a great job of assisting knock away some of the resistance that will cause that to be a uncomfortable situation. However, the soul clearings are also extremely necessary to guide and direct our souls in the right way. And we have a pretty interesting experience to express to you that shows the other uses of soul clearings besides just, helping fix some issue you have going on in your life right this moment.
Well, before I share this experience, I want to share the idea that often when people come for soul clearings, they're aware that they have things attached to them, or they have blockages, or they have interference, and it always appears as if it's something from outside of us. It always appears as if it's something that's pushing up against us, and in a way it is. However, these constructs, these spiritual and mental and emotional constructs, have everything to do with what we are thinking and how it is that we process what we're thinking. And often, we talk about, or it comes up in this kind of conversation, the idea of things like demons, or other things of that nature. But the idea of that is really a thought form that has been hard held, that is not one of upliftment, So you could have a thought form that could be considered a demon that was really about being judgmental or about betrayal. So if you resonate with those same kinds of thought forms, this long held construct of that kind of energy can find you and attach itself to you. And this is where we get the feeling that it's coming from outside ourselves. But in reality, in fact, once we are in the vibration of those kinds of those thought forms then can resonate with us, and then it's very easy for them to attach to us. So if we feel any of unforgiveness, or we feel shame, or we feel suicidal, any of these kinds of thoughts, then the construct that has been in existence for millions of years, which is deadly, can then find us and attach to us. And this is something that I think needs to be really shared, so that people understand that, yes, it is outside of us, but more, it is originating from our thought patterns and then resonating with something that's been long and hard held. And then we find ourselves with a gigantic construct that is dangerous to us. So, and I know you wanted me to talk about something else, but did that help share it?
Yeah, that actually, what you just shared, made me think of how there might be someone who we know who's such a beautiful soul, such a great individual when they are operating in their happy place, so to say. However, we see another side of them when when they're unhappy, or when they're angry, or when they're, we like to call, oh, yeah, that girl's crazy. That person's this, or that guy's crazy. However, when they're not being themselves or in their peaceful place, then the attributes that they adapt are the thing that you just said, that construct of, that might be that the demon, so to say, of being crazy or displaying those kind of actions. So like when you say, if you're like the suicidal thing, this person can be a loving, caring person. However, when they get to this certain reach of depression, then that life form, that entity of a suicidal being is who's working through them at that point, and they're no longer themselves anymore. They're being someone different. They're being that negative entity, so to say.
Well, not only are they having that experience of that being interfering with them or attaching to them, but it comes with all the weight and force of the energy it has gathered over however long it has existed. So it's quite significant, and it's very real. And people often people know that they're kind of being pushed about. People, kind of understand the idea. I know one of the things I often share with people is about when they have addictions, is it's really funny that if you're laying in bed at night and you have an addiction for chocolate, and you're laying in bed, you're comfortable, you got on your pajamas, and something says, get up and go get me some chocolate. Get up out of the bed, get in the car, put on your shoes, and go get me some chocolate, or go get me whatever it is. Go get, whatever it is that addiction is calling for. But that's a pretty clear indication that it's not you.
Yeah, because you're comfortable, you're laying there, you wouldn't get up to go. Yeah, I got you. That is pretty funny. I did want you to share about the other usage of the soul clearings, about clearing with the story of Joseph.
Well, in the early days of me clearing, this is maybe 15 years ago, in the early days of me clearing, I was aware of two elderly people. At that time, I had a partner, and we had a business of clearing, and we recognized our guidance was indicating to us that there was a reason that we needed to pursue two souls that we knew who had recently died. And these souls were souls of righteous and highly evolved people, but in their latter years, they had grown old, and in their latter years had become sick. And in their illness had also, their mental patterns had also collapsed, so they weren't as strong in their thought forms. And our guidance directed us to a gateway to hell, where both of them had ended up. And it wasn't because they were not good beings, but they were beings who were, when the opportunity, when they passed, when the transition took place, and the opportunity to move on was available to them, to move towards the light, as we all are familiar with that understanding, because they are still entities, just because they don't have bodies, they still have free will, they chose not to go. And because of the frequency at which they were operating, the thought levels that they were operating, their proximity to a gateway kind of sucked them in. And so our guidance directed us, and this was something that was happening, that we were aware that they had passed away, but it was in my early learning, so I didn't know to check. But we were guided to go to the gatekeeper and go into the gateway to hell to bring these souls out, so that they could then choose to move on to the place that was the proper place for that level of soul. And that was a very interesting and very indelibly imprinted upon my brain, the importance of our elderly and our children being cleared, so that they could operate at a frequency where they had more pleasure. Sometimes in illness we become unhappy and disgruntled, but most of us have joy and justice and laughter and love in our hearts, and in our illness it escapes us, or when our brains aren't working properly. So it's so important that the idea of making sure that those who are in care or in hospice, or those who are at a point at which life is about to shift into a different translation for them, that they stay as happy as possible, that we have a responsibility to be responsible for the happiness of our elderly and our children and our wives and our husband and we have that responsibility to keep the environment happy. So should there be a need, or should they choose to transition, that the frequencies that they're operating in will take them automatically to the right place without fear. So this situation, I later understood, was really an issue of fear, that the fear had kept them from moving to the direction they should have gone to. And the fear also is a double-edged, it's like a double-edged blade they walked upon. The fear also allowed them to go to a place where they weren't properly harmonized, but because of the proximity of the low frequencies, they ended up there as a temporary situation. So I don't know, is that clear?
Yes, ma'am. And so your father, my grandfather, is 92 years old. And if we do soul clearings on someone in that time of their life, where they might not be actively pursuing a spiritual direction or growth per se, what effect can that have on their experience going forward? Does it help cancel out some of the negative things that have happened to their soul's experience from before, to give them a little more ease going into their transition?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your grandfather is someone that we actually do regular work on, and he and he is by virtue grouchy. However, he has his peace of mind is better now. He's happy where he lives, and I think this is really important, that people don't feel embondaged or imprisoned, or like they're being forced to do anything. So if we can get to the point where we can clear away all of the emotional debris that makes them feel like they have to fight, or that they need to be in resistance, then that changes everything. If people are at peace, then the peace itself will carry them through where they need to go.
And that's something he experienced his whole life, of that, having to fight, having to be around a tough and rough environment, that he felt like he was always, being attacked, so to say, or going to be attacked. So we can actually help change that and ease that to make his transition smooth.
Right. And in fact, in this situation, my father was a policeman. And in this situation, what I have noticed with my working with him over the years is that we can remove the point of view of conflict. We can remove what appears to be from outside. He chose professions where he would be working with the ideas of right and wrong. He chose professions where he would be in judgment about one thing or another because that was something that he was working on. And so because of that, we can remove the larger idea is the program that we're working on, or the larger idea is the theme. And so once the theme is recognized, once we can identify what the situation or what the circumstances are, then we can remove them. My father is not aware in the most specific sense of the work I'm doing on him, but he is within my care and I have the right to do this work with him. So I'm able to, without necessarily having to discuss it with him, to alleviate him of some of the things, because if I can identify them, I can move them. And this work, the work we do, allows us to identify very specifically the specific emotions, the specific constructs that are causing difficulty or causing problems. And once we can eliminate them and move them and collapse that energy, then the person can move on to the next highest experience.
So for young children, can a soul clearing do anything to give them, to ease the resistance that they're going to experience in their life with this program that they might have that's already a preset program? Can doing a soul clearing on a child cause them to be able to have a little more of a clearer experience in life?
Well, often with children, it's a little bit different circumstance. Generally, what's happening with the children is really happening with the parents or at the school or with the teachers, or the children are within the frequency of the parents for the most part. And so what happens often, that's not to say that they don't come in with their own programs, they do. But if they are traumatized, or if there is a situation where the parents are disruptive or the environment is disruptive, or something's happening at school, then that's sometimes is where we need to do the clearing. So we really don't want to work on children unless there is something very specific happening. And what I have noticed is that most of what is happening to the adults, either at the level of teacher in school or caretaker or grandparents. And then that is overlaying on the children. However, there is also many, many, many very gifted children are being born at this time, and they are experiencing at a very visceral level what's taking place on our planet. And those that can see are often traumatized by what's happening in the school system and what's happening on the highways with the disembodied energies that they can see and they are aware of. So what we can do is we can fortify them. We have the ability to fortify their past life structure and their programs, so that they'll be better able to not forget, like many of us who were growing up who were equally as gifted, as it's a human right. We shut down our ability because what we saw was very frightening. So we stopped ourselves from seeing, and we continue to keep ourselves from seeing through our entire lifetimes. But many of the children can see, and we're working with many of these very gifted children at DNA Replicate, and we're finding that they're being fortified because they're thrilled. I had a couple of children recently share with their aunt, "This is so cool being fortified. Now all these things that are flying at us are moving away from us instead of trying to get in us." That was a quote.
Wow. And that's beautiful. And that's a specific passion of mine, to be able to help start young people off on the right foot rather than having to experience all the roughness of the world and then have to be forced into finding a solution. Rather than starting on the right foot, then you can just grow as life was intended for you to grow and develop. Well, we've come up on our next commercial break, and on the other side of the break, we have a transformational story from Dr. K. When we return, we'll get started right with that.
Well, Dr. K is with us. Welcome, Dr. K. Are you there?
Greetings. Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Greetings,
greeting.
everyone.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I know that you're. Would you share with our listening audience where you're from?
I am from the New York area.
Aren't you from the islands as well?
No, well, I'm from Latin America. My
Okay.
family is from, part of my family is from the Dominican Republic as well as Honduras.
Oh, fantastic. And how did you find out about us?
Well, I found out about you from someone in Chicago, a friend of mine in Chicago,
Fantastic.
and she told me about you all because of all the things that I was going through, and she told me that you have to speak with her. And her experience was similar to mine, and she told me about all the wonderful things that have transformed in her life since she worked with you. And I decided that I will take that first step to transform my life.
Well, we're so happy to have you here, and we're very thankful to have you with us, Dr. K. Would you share with us your story of transformation?
Oh, absolutely. Prior to me coming to you, I had so much chaos in my life. Um, the chaos it started many, many years ago. However, I was unable to understand pretty much what was going on. And why I decided to come to you guys is simply because I was working on biotechnology projects. I was also working on projects as a holistic health practitioner and be able to do missionary work all over the world. However, during that process, I talked to a lot of people so that they can help me to bring this, vision into fruition. I met a lot of people who claimed that they were going to help me, and they came on board. And what they ended up doing was either betrayed me, stole from me, or lied to me. And I just could not understand that something so beautiful, something so great that I'm trying to do, why is it that I keep attracting people in my life that were just stealing my resources or betraying me and lying to me? And then when I spoke to this person in Chicago, she was like, you probably had some issues in your past life that you had to address. And when I came to Lyota, she was able to explain to me exactly what happened in my past life that moved on into this new life that caused me to have all of those blockages to the point whereby I pretty much lost almost everything that I worked very hard for. And once I made that transition and I did my clearing, within 21 days, we talking about 21 days to the first clearance, I had some extremely big breakthrough. I was offered a job that paid me double the amount of money that I've made from my previous job. My practice starts to grow, and a lot of people who I needed to really make my vision become a reality, now these people are coming to me. People are even offering to help using their resources. Before I was losing my resources. Now people are bringing their resources to make this vision a reality, which I feel is really phenomenon that people are offering their money to help. People are offering money for travel. People are offering money to even build a site and to open up multiple locations. The transformation itself is, I'm still like in la la land trying to figure out why I did not know about you years ago when I was losing everything, including my house. So going through this process is extremely, extremely important to me. And I encourage every single person out there who's listening that if you experiencing a lot of blockages in your life and you need explanation and you need those blockages to be removed, this is the place that you need to be. You need to go to DNA Replicate. One other thing that has happened to me that I find to be really, really phenomenon is that I met someone, we've been crossing each other's path for the last 10 years. We crossed each other paths while I worked in Puerto Rico for about 7 years. Then we crossed each other paths while working in Latin America for another 5 years. And the interesting thing about this individual is that the project that he was working on is identical to the project that I was working on. And there was a missing component of his project, and there was a missing component of my project. The interesting thing is that what the missing component of his project was what I have, and the missing component of my project was exactly what he had. So now we are working collaboratively so that we can really bring this huge project to move a large population into great health, great financial status, and to pretty much transform this population. And now everything is just working well, and it's coming into fruition. And this happened again within 30 days of my clearance. So there's just so many things that had happened within that 30 days that I'm really, 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 really excited about. And there are other great stuff that is about to happen, and I cannot wait to share it with you guys on the other show. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you sharing your story of transformation with us, and it was really very exciting. And I was riveted, even though I've heard it before. It was wonderful to hear this again from you, and thank you for sharing it with the audience.
Thank you so much. And make sure you guys call. Do not, every single day that you do not do something about transforming your life, you preventing yourself from reaping the benefits that everything that God wants to do with your life. He uses us to do great things. And by having these blockages, that's a prevention of manifesting his work. So I encourage every single person out there who's trying to get things done and there's blockages to call in. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day, Dr. K.
Thank you, Dr.
so
K.
much.
You too. Bye-bye.
I think that's just so profound how clearing can literally move these roadblocks that are holding us back from accomplishing or feeling accomplished about what we're doing in our lives. Because all of us know that we're here to serve a greater purpose than to wake up, eat, work, go back to sleep, or that kind of mundane type of life. We all know that we're capable and we have much more available to us. However, it seems like every time we try, there's something that gets in the way. Every time that we have something that, might be a great idea, we have a reason not to do it. However, the simple taking advantage of soul clearings can actually help remove these blockages, and everything that's important to you just so happens to come about, and like it's a miracle, so to say. But it's actually a miracle that you made happen while allowing yourself to move everything. I think that's awesome.
Well, one of the things that really stands out to me in this particular case, and it happens in many, many, many cases, is this idea that you're circling people who you have destiny with. That often there have been agreements that were made before you were born, that certain things would take place, that certain circumstances would come together, and you're in the same field as someone, and you're working in the same kind of idea. You want the same things, but for some reason you find yourselves, you'll find out later that you were in the same building on the same day and you passed each other and never saw each other. And that goes on for years. But once we start removing the debris, once we start removing the world energies, once we start removing the accumulation of living in physical reality, then you see each other. Like all of a sudden you see each other across the room. And it's this wonderful celebration of having found the other aspect of what you were planning on doing here. This idea of meeting with what you decided, or what was destined, what you decided to make happen in this reality. And this aspect showed up in this story, but it shows up in many, 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 many stories that someone will say, I just ran into someone who, is doing the same thing I'm doing, and it's such a perfect match, and really wanted, I really was looking for someone to help me, but we didn't realize that we had already arranged for our help before we were born.
Yes, and that's that idea of the soul family. People who you experience the same connection with from lifetime to lifetime, who come to live this experience through with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Where you're moving together towards the same end, towards the same purpose. However, there are life lessons and experiences that have to be experienced first before the connection can be made or before you can get through it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, this is the saddest part of our time together, is the end. And we actually are going to let everyone know that if you have any questions, concerns, comments, or interests about anything you've heard today, feel free to contact us via email at laotaofthesun@gmail.com. That's LAOTAOFTHESUN and at gmail.com. And we're excited to share about our upcoming Quantum Light Clearing class here in Florida in January 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And if you're interested in finding out a little more about that and how that works, you can visit our website at www.dnareplicate.com, or you can email us and contact us for more information. We thank everyone for joining us and being a part of this conversation. So until next week, have a great day, everyone.
In Lakesh.
In Lakesh.